Hi, everyone. As most of you are aware, there are many common signs of a narcissist. But what about the uncommon, or what I refer to as the hidden signs of a narcissist? Well, today we're going to uncover the one hidden sign of a narcissist that people need to be aware of and how to avoid getting involved in an unhealthy, toxic relationship. Keep in mind, there are other hidden signs of a narcissist, but for today's conversation, we're going to go over the one hidden sign that is often seen but frequently misunderstood. And that one hidden sign of a narcissist is his or her refusal to compromise. And by compromise, we're not referring to compromising over major value or moral differences. What I am talking about are the compromises as it relates to simple differences in preferences. For instance, picking out what new car to buy, what temperature to set the thermostat on, and decisions that require a vote in a group setting to reach a compromise that is a win-win for all parties involved. You see, narcissists are not willing to compromise and will insist on their own point of view or their own way of doing things. It's basically their way or the highway, so to speak. Everyone else's viewpoint is irrelevant to a narcissist because the narcissist feels superior to everyone around them. In fact, their inability to be empathetic and their arrogance are the typical common signs of a narcissist. Lacking empathy is the difficulty to recognize or care about the feelings or needs of others. And being arrogant is having a condescending attitude and feeling superior towards others. And I believe their outright refusal to compromise in relationships is a direct manifestation of their arrogance and lack of empathy. Compromising feels too threatening to narcissists because compromising would threaten their fragile ego and dismantle their grandiose delusions and false self. So a narcissist will always vehemently refuse to compromise whenever a compromise is mentioned. If you find yourself in situations with narcissists who are refusing to compromise and are demanding that things go their way, it is very important to set firm boundaries with them. Never let them bully or coerce you to cave into their unreasonable requests or demands. If you've tried offering solutions for a compromise and the narcissist still refuses to compromise, then the best thing to do is politely decline the request or demand and avoid further contact with them. Narcissists are toxic people who are harmful to your mental and physical health. You can't reason with them because their narcissistic personality disorder is a serious mental condition that requires medical treatment and behavioral therapy. And I just want to stop right here. I know a lot of us who have come across narcissists, we all know this to be true. We've all have tried to change them, right? Haven't we? A lot of us who have either dated one or are friends with them, we have tried to change them, or we hope that they would change. However, we need to realize that it's a serious mental, as I said earlier, it's a serious mental condition and illness, a mental illness that requires medical treatment and behavioral therapy. Okay, so it's not something one individual can remedy or try to influence. Okay, so the best course of action is you can try reasoning with them, and if that doesn't work, then the best thing to do is to avoid contact with them. Because they are very harmful to your mental and physical health. So it's best to avoid people that are toxic. Healthy, normal people, healthy, mature people have emotional intelligence and emotional regulation. Their maturity, flexibility, and humility allow them to see a world outside and beyond themselves, so they can form meaningful relationships based on mutual respect, trust, and emotional intimacy. Healthy, normal, mature people can seek understanding and are able to empathize with those around them. There's a natural reciprocal give and take in their relationships. They value others and can reach a compromise when needed. That is in the best interest for all, resulting in a win-win outcome. When dealing with a narcissist, the people pleasers are usually the ones who struggle the most because they tend to acquiesce and cave in to the selfish demands of a narcissist. It's because people pleasers by nature are people who don't want to make waves and are extremely uncomfortable with confrontations and conflicts. So they will do anything to avoid it at all costs and take the path of least resistance. The people pleasers are natural empaths. They are very empathetic, and as such, they often sabotage their own happiness and well being for the sake of keeping peace. Now, don't get me wrong, it's wonderful to be a people pleaser, but being overly pleasing and accommodating in relationships could eventually lead to negative outcomes such as codependency, a loss of personal identity, low self esteem, exhaustion, and depression. As with most things in life, moderation is key, where there needs to be a healthy balance instead of living life in the extremes. Okay. I just want to reiterate, I think people pleasers are great people in general. Okay. And women usually are the ones that are that way because that's the nature of how we were raised. However, like I said, anything to the extreme, if you're people pleasing to the extreme at at the expense of your own welfare and happiness, that's a problem. Okay, folks. So it's just something to keep in mind. Furthermore, the people pleasers who have a pattern of attracting toxic partners, like narcissists, will most likely need to seek professional counseling to detoxify, heal from possible childhood wounds, learn to set boundaries, and most importantly, learn self love. It's not a surprise that narcissists usually end up in relationships with people pleasers. Narcissists intentionally target and prey upon people pleasers for their narcissistic supply because they believe people pleasers are easy to control and manipulate. Let me say this again. Narcissists intentionally target and prey upon people pleasers for their narcissistic supply because they believe people pleasers are easy to control and manipulate. And so narcissists will take full advantage of the empathetic nature of the people pleasers. The good news is that it's never too late for those of you who are people pleasing to a fault to get help and heal. In time, you will learn to love yourselves and develop the skills necessary to deal with narcissists. For additional helpful information, I also invite you to check out one of my past videos called How to Deal with a Toxic Relationship. Look for the video link at the end of this video. In that video, I provide practical steps on how to handle toxic relationships. So the next time you're dealing with a narcissist, pay very close attention to their selfish and self-serving behaviors, self-centered and inflexible thoughts, lack of empathy that ultimately show up as a hidden sign of the refusal to compromise. This hidden sign is easily seen, especially in a group setting. In a group setting, their insecurities and need for control is highly triggered and intensified to the extent that they will outright dismiss the needs of all others by relentlessly pushing their own views and insisting that their way is the only way. They become immediately enraged and combative when a compromise is presented or suggested. Since the word compromise is not in the vocabulary, the group is met with the narcissist's full display in unleashing of drama and manipulation tactics. This is why most narcissists are loners and lack real healthy friends. Healthy people choose not to engage with toxic people and eventually avoid them altogether. Healthy, successful friendships and relationships require compromise sometimes. And compromises are only possible when the individuals involved are mature and can value, respect, and treat others as equals. The ability to effectively communicate and resolve conflicts in a healthy manner is critical to the success of a relationship. I believe the willingness and ability to compromise marks the true health of a relationship. Let me say this again. I believe the willingness and ability to compromise marks the true health of a relationship. As I said earlier, the refusal to compromise is often seen but frequently misunderstood, because in most unhealthy toxic relationships, compromise is non-existent, especially when it comes to narcissists. The idea of compromise is a threat to their inflated ego and core existence. They thrive on control and tend to attract people pleasers. Together, the relationship becomes one of codependency and a trauma bond is formed. And not only is the relationship dynamic dysfunctional and toxic, but the nature of that unhealthy dynamic is based on an imbalance of power and control. Okay. And so this is what happens. Okay. Usually a narcissist will pair up with a people pleaser. That's just the nature of the personalities, and they just kind of click, right? Um, and so what ends up happening is that they do become codependent and they do form a trauma bond. Okay. And so the dynamic of the relationship is very, very unhealthy, because there's this imbalance of power and control. Okay. Being with a narcissist, okay, the narcissists themselves have to be in control. You can have, they will not pair up with somebody who also wants to be in control. Okay, so if you're in a, if so, people that that choose to be in a relationship with narcissists, there will always be an imbalance of power control, because the narcissist will always want the upper hand and the one to have things their way and to make decisions. Okay. In summary, while knowing the obvious signs of a narcissist is important, it is equally important to understand the hidden signs, like the one we just talked about. It has been said that knowledge is power. My sincere hope is that you never relinquish your power and instead choose to always protect your peace and honor your sovereignty. You will save yourself a lot of time, frustration, stress, and emotional pain when you recognize that the refusal to compromise is one of the many hidden signs of a narcissist. So please be aware and take care. Okay, folks. Um, yeah, and I would say most of us have probably come across people in our lives that just don't compromise. Okay, I myself have been in that situation. I've been around family members that are that way. Okay, and it's funny. It took years for me to see this as a hidden sign. A lot of things that we experience in life, we just kind of write off like, oh well, right? We don't really think twice about it, or we just think that's just who they are. But this is something that I realized as lately, or I would say the last few years, that I've come across when I've come across a narcissist, their outright refusal to compromise. Okay. And it's amazing how most of us, we just kind of overlook that. Like we if we come across someone like that, we just kind of forget about it, right? Or we let them have their way. Or I don't know how most of us, I think most of us will probably just excuse that behavior. But I just want to, I think it's very important that this is one of those hidden signs that can easily be overlooked. And so the goal of this video, I just want, I want everyone to have this on their radar. Okay. And just be aware. That's all. If you come across a situation or a group setting, and there's one person in the group that is very adamant about having, their voice heard and their thinking validated, and they don't, and this person doesn't seem to really, accept or are not able to be flexible with other people's viewpoints and suggestions, that's a red flag. Okay, and then you can just realize right away and know within yourself that you're dealing with a narcissist. Okay, so like I said, after the video, please check out my previous video on how to deal with in a toxic relationship. That was that video will help you guys if you don't know how to deal with how to deal with people that are toxic. This video will give you very good ideas on step by step on how to deal with toxic relationships. Okay. Okay, folks, if you like this video and you resonate, please click like and click share. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any comments or questions you'd like to add, please put them below. I always welcome people's thoughts and comments. And if you've been through or know people that are not able to compromise, please share that so that we all can learn from each other. Okay? So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.